Hi, and welcome to this week's edition of Think Tank Thursday. I'm Denise Killian with Trainertainment, and we're so thrilled that you're joining us today for our conversation that's going to impact every single small business owner in the country. We got some big things to talk about today, but before we get there, I want to thank our sponsors who help make Think Tank Thursday possible each and every week. We appreciate them and what they do for us to help bring Think Tank Thursday to you. So Trainertainment likes to take a break on Thursdays from the doing and spend some time on the thinking. So today we're going to be talking with Barbara Flynn, who is an HR expert, on some new changes that are going into effect January 1 on what you're paying your salary exempt folks in your center. It's a big topic. I recommend you grab a piece of paper because you're going to want to write down some numbers and some dates. But there are big changes in effect that will take place January 1st, 2025. And Barbara Flynn is here to explain all of those to us. So let's get right down to it and say hello to Barbara. Welcome to Think Tank Thursday, Barbara. It's so wonderful to have you here.
Oh, I'm so excited to be here. I always love working with you guys on Think Tank Thursdays. Such an informative way to get information out to our audience. So I'm excited about being here today.
Well, thank you. And guests like you are the reason it's informative. And we're going to talk about some big important things today that every business owner needs to be paying attention to. So before we get into it, Barbara, for those that don't know you, tell us a little bit about yourself and your company that you started.
Yes, well, a little bit about Barbara. Barbara has been in the human resource field for over 40 years. Yeah, I started when I was 2 years old. And so I've got my master's degree in HR. I'm senior certified in I have two different certifications in human resources, as well as teaching at a couple of universities here in South Florida. The name of my company is People First. We're a business solutions company. We provide payroll and human resource services. We also help on the bookkeeping side. We do bookkeeping. So I always tell people I love shoe boxes. Give me those receipts. I'll get everything organized. So your CPA will be very happy when they go to do their tax returns. And it also saves them money because the CPA isn't having to go through the shoebox. We are at a much more affordable price. So that's what we are. We have 6 employees and we cover the whole country, and we're just excited about being there and providing those solutions to small businesses.
Well, it's wonderful because we're here talking about small businesses today.
Yes.
And we're talking about some changes to federal requirements of what the minimum wage you can pay for people who are salary non-exempt. So first, let's make sure we know the difference between salary exempt and salary non-exempt.
Correct. Well, it's the changes are affecting, it's the minimum salary requirement if an individual is exempt from overtime. A lot of people use the term salary when they really mean exempt. So there's exempt and non-exempt, meaning you're exempt from having to pay overtime. Then the method of payment is to pay somebody a salary or to pay somebody by the hour. You can be, well, if you're hourly non-exempt. But when you're paid a salary, you can either be paid a salary and be exempt from overtime, meaning you're paid to do a job and you get a set amount of money to do that job. Or you can be salaried non-exempt, meaning you get a salary, but your status is non-exempt, meaning you're not exempt from the overtime issue. So therefore, you are to get overtime for any hours worked over 40 in a work week. So you've got salaried exempt, salaried non-exempt, and then you've got hourly, which are non-exempt as well.
Okay. All right. So this is somewhat confusing for those who don't work in payroll all the time, right?
Right.
So want to make sure that we're super clear. We are now talking about some new federal regulations that are changing from federal regulations that went into effect in July.
Right.
of what you can pay someone. What's the minimum amount you can pay someone who is salaried, exempt? So
Correct.
these are your folks, maybe your mid-level managers who aren't getting overtime. And we know they're working more than 40 hours, right? But they're
That's
not
right.
getting overtime because they're salary exempt.
Correct.
Okay. So we're going to backtrack for a second because this law changed in July 1st of this year.
Right.
So those amounts were
$43,888 a year was the threshold for somebody to be exempt from overtime.
so that change happened July 1. And in our previous think tank, when we talked about that change, we said there was another change coming.
That's
This
right.
one is coming January 1st. So in July, you had to up any salary exempt employees pay to $43,888 a year.
Correct.
What bump is coming January 1st?
January 1st, this is the big one. This is the one that's going to affect a lot more businesses than the July 1st one. And that new salary requirement is $58,656. If you make less than that, by law, you have to pay the individual overtime for anything worked over 40 in a work week.
So we're going to say that number again because it's a big one. And it's a massive jump from the July number.
It goes a $15,000 jump. It
Yeah.
goes to $58,656. How many of you would like a $15,000 a year raise? I mean,
Me, right? Who
right?
wouldn't?
Right.
Who wouldn't? But for small businesses, that's a big pill to swallow.
It is.
So I want to talk just briefly about this is all from the Fair Labor Standards Act,
Correct.
right? So Congress has passed this. Give us a little bit of the background on that and what that means.
This actually was initiated back in the 1930s, I believe 1938. Okay, so we're going way back, and this is to protect individuals to make sure that they're going to get a fair wage for the work they do. It eliminated child labor, right? It eliminated kids working for 50 cents for like a week in sweatshops. It was needed at the time. It still is needed, but the adjustments have not been made. There have been adjustments, but they have not been made to be adjusted to what it costs to actually live, to the cost of living. Okay. So the adjustments now are being made to bring people up to salaries that, given the job that they're doing, that's really the expectation of what they should be making. In other words, we've been underpaying people for certain jobs they're doing. And the government now has said, we're going to adjust the Fair Labor Standards Act. We're going to adjust these minimum salaries, just like they adjust minimum wage for hourly folks. They're adjusting a wage for the folks that are exempt, that are managers, that are doing more, that are getting paid to do a job and not to be paid by the hour.
Right. So a lot of times for businesses, you think, oh, you're a manager. You're going to be supervising people. You're going to be working more than the 40 hours. So I'm just going to pay you a salary and not pay you overtime. So I'm just going to make you exempt, and look, everybody's happy. You get a bigger salary. I don't have to deal with the overtime. Aren't we all happy? That's not how it's supposed to work, right?
No, it's not. And a lot of people want to be exempt and get a salary, not have to worry about punching a clock. They think they can come and go as they please, right? So people think, oh, well, I'll make them salaried. I don't have to worry about overtime. I don't have to worry about any of that. But it's not up to the business owner or the business to decide who is exempt and who is not exempt. The Department of Labor has rules for that. It's all part of the Fair Labor Standards Act. And there is a fact sheet that you can download that will define all of those jobs. It's based on the job duties. You look at the job duties to determine whether somebody's exempt or not exempt, not whether, oh, I want to save money in payroll and I'm going to make them exempt so I don't have to worry about all the extra overtime. Doesn't work that way.
Mhm.
If you're doing that and you've not gotten in trouble yet, count your blessings. However, if you want to sleep at night, you want to make sure you're doing things properly, because you could get discovered one day and then you've got a lot of back wages and penalties and all of that you'll just don't want to deal with.
So, for owners who maybe weren't aware of the very specific requirements to be salary exempt, um, or the owners who are, hey, I do have the right people in the exempt category, but I can't afford to pay all of them this $15,000 increase.
Mhm.
What are your options?
Well, there are options, and we've been working through those. I've been working through those with several of my clients now. You can keep the person as salaried, okay, but they're now going to be non-exempt. That means they're going to make their salary. They're going to continue to make the salary they've been making all along. The only thing they're going to have to do is track their time. You are going to need, the burden of proof on this is on the employer. You're going to need to require them to track their time. If they work more than 40 hours, you will be required to pay them half time for anything worked over 40. Can't do that.
So that's different than what you pay the overtime rate for hourly people, right?
Because you're paying them for by the hour. So then they're going to get time and a half because they haven't been paid for the extra hours yet. But your salaried folks are getting paid a salary to do a job. But if they work overtime, you've paid them the salary you paid them their hourly rate. You just need to pay them the halftime. So I know for me, that's how I'm going to handle any of my exempt employees that I can't afford to give a $15,000 a year raise. That's
Right.
just out of the question for me as a small business. Most small businesses can't.
Mhm.
Some small businesses may be improperly paying people. Now's the time to figure out whether they should be exempt or not exempt. And I had one client that said, well, I'm already paying them $58,500. So I'm just going to bump it up because that's, they're already close to that maximum. But they can't, you can't do that when you're paying somebody right now $43,888 to bump it up 15,000.
Yeah, that's a huge jump. So is the Department of Labor going to start going through everybody's payroll, every business and company in the country? Like what does that look like?
So here's what happens. Okay. You're working, everybody's loving it, having a great time. They love you. And then somebody gets upset with you and they quit and they're mad at you. They're going to call the Department of Labor and report you. The Department of Labor is not going to be able to monitor every business in the country to see if they're properly paying people. It's going to be, are your people happy? Are you doing it? Bottom line, do it properly. Okay. And I've had people say, oh, nobody's ever going to report me. You never know. Your best employee could end up reporting you if you get them upset or they get upset or get a bug about something. Then as I said before, if you want to sleep at night, you want to do the right thing.
Yeah,
If
absolutely.
you're okay with going to bed wondering who's going to come knocking on your door tomorrow, okay, you can do that too and take your chances. It's, if you're a gambler, go for it.
Well,
But
and those investigations are incredibly costly. It's a whole lot of time, it costs a lot of money. And as the owner, you're having to do all of that could go on for a year or more and face fines instead of running your business.
right, right. It ends up they can pull time cards, and if you don't track the time, that's why I said you want to track the hours and do it properly, because that's what they're going to want to see. And if you don't have it, the burden of proof is on you. You have to be able to prove that they didn't work the hours that they say they're working when they reported the claim.
Right. So for everybody to understand, you've got salary exempt, which means you're making a salary, no overtime. You have salary non-exempt, which you have a base salary, but you do get overtime when you go over that 40 hours.
Right.
That overtime is paid as halftime.
Right. Because you've already been paid for those hours. Right.
Yeah. And then you have hourly employees who do get overtime, and that overtime is time and a half.
Right. Because they did not get paid for those hours. So you need to pay them for the hours, and then you pay them the half time on top of that because it's gone over 40 in a work week.
Yep. Okay. So, whew, it's a lot to kind of keep straight. But if your person is salary exempt and you're not paying them overtime,
And
as
you're
of
not paying the
January 1,
58. Yep.
they better be making $58,656 a year.
Correct. I also want to point out there are certain states that look at overtime differently. It could be 8 hours in a day. So you need to know your state's rules as well. The rule of thumb is whatever benefits the employee better is what you have to follow. That's why when you look at hourly minimum wage in Florida is way higher than the federal minimum wage, right? So in Florida, the minimum wage is $13 an hour right now.
Okay.
The federal minimum wage is 7 and change.
7, yeah. So it's a question that for a lot of our managers, you may be on call, right? So you're not scheduled to work on the weekend, perhaps. You've already done your 40 hours, but you're going to be on call for Saturday in case something happens in the center, somebody calls in sick, there's an issue that needs to be immediately addressed. You're the person that they call. Do you get paid for those hours that you're on call? How does that work?
Okay. If you're on call, but you're not working, that you haven't gotten a call, no, you don't. Those hours that you're on call, you may be paid a differential because you're on call, but those do not count as hours worked. However, you get the call and now you're solving a problem, that becomes hours worked. Then it's overtime.
There you go. There's so many situational things that we as business owners have been operating under that are going to need to change. I do want to ask, why 2 bumps in a 6-month period? You had one in July of 24, and then this big, huge, massive bump in January of 2025. Why 2 big bumps in 6 months?
Well, I don't know if you remember, but it was November, oh gosh, 4 or 5 years ago, that the rate was going to go up to, I forget what the annual amount was. The 58,656 works out to be $1,128 a week. Okay. About 5 years ago, as of November 1st of that year, the minimum salary requirement was going up to 900 and change, right? There was an injunction in Texas that stopped it at the 11th hour. So nothing happened at that point. All right. So the adjustment needed to be made back then, but there was an injunction and they stopped it. Now they've come back and they made one adjustment, a small adjustment. Okay. Now they're trying to bring it up to where they feel it should be. Remember, this was what, 5 years ago, 900 and change. It's going to 1128. They've made some adjustments, but it's where it really should have been brought up to 5 years ago. So that's why there's the quick two turnaround within 6 months of each other. It was okay, business owners, it's the big one's coming, but let's get adjusted to this one now. And now let's make the full adjustment of what we feel is necessary. Because keep in mind, it's not going to stop there. We're not going to go forever at that rate. Okay. They're going to look at the cost of living. They're going to look at inflation. They're going to make an adjustment to that 58,656 periodically. So we
Yeah.
need to keep on top of, what's happening, and you need to have somebody who's on top of your employment practices to make sure you're going to remain compliant.
So, and that leads perfectly into so many small business owners do not have an HR department. They don't have an HR expert, a payroll expert in their employ.
Right.
They use various online HR sort of components and a payroll system, and that's about it, right? Because they're
Or
busy running
maybe
their business,
Google.
or maybe Google, right? Quicken. Who doesn't have Quicken?
Right.
So this is something like the value of having that expert is so essential.
It is. It is. And we've, a little bit of a sales pitch here, but we've put together a program for small business owners, a kind of pay as you go. It's a 15-minute call, and you get charged for it. If we end up speaking longer, it's every 15 minutes, we charge a certain amount. And I have found it's very successful with small business owners. They know they can pick up the phone and call and ask their question or get advice, or how I've been working with folks on making these adjustments to salaries because of the new changes that are going to be coming up. So there are consultants out there that are available to help the small business owner. I know we are one of them, and we are geared to the small business. We want to be affordable. We want to provide a person who's got over 40 years of HR experience, but you're not going to have to pay them, mid to high six figures to get the information. We want to make the small business owner who can't afford to have an HR person, period, whether they be full or part-time. It's important to know you've got a resource that you can call upon. And we just want the little guys to know we're here for them.
Absolutely. How can people get in touch with you, Barb?
Oh, well, we have a website. It's peoplefirst.com. Okay. And also they're feel free to call us, but we do have a website that you can reach out to us. And also I know that the number is 954-587-6100, but I'm sure it's going to be on the screen as well. So you can reach out to us anytime, and we take your call seriously, and we are quick to respond. You don't have to wait days to get an answer.
Yeah, absolutely. So Barb, this is all a lot of great information. And, we definitely want people to be aware of it, know that there's a resource to help them figure this hot mess out, because it is a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot, right? So thank you for that. And I also want to ask you, it's time for our trainertainment question. Are you ready?
I am ready.
All right. As you know, we're all about growth at Trainertainment. What do you do to grow others, to grow the people in your office and people that you work with?
I'm so excited you asked that question. Usually it is, what do I do? But I like, how do I grow others? I actually, as part of my trainertainment education that I have gotten, and one of our part of our 3-year plan, which we're quickly approaching, is that I want all of our employees to participate in some type of CEU, whether it be an hour webinar or a class or going back to school and getting their degree. But I want them to do one thing a quarter, so that 4 times a year they have participated in some type of growth opportunity. As I said, whether it be a webinar. I have 2 people actually that are working on their accounting degrees. So they're taking college courses right now, so that counts. I have a payroll manager who wants to be certified in payroll, so she is taking courses to get her certification there. I actually teach folks to get certified in human resources. I need to keep those certifications up, and it's 20 hours a year I need in order to keep my certification up. So I'm doing it because I don't ever want to sit for that exam again. So that's our goal. My goal is to see that my people are constantly working on growing professionally in whatever area they want to grow in. I've offered them even Excel courses if they want to, get some advanced experience in Excel. That would count as a CEU for them. So
I love that incentive and encouragement, because if we stop learning, what's the point, right?
right, we stop. That's it.
So I love the encouragement that you give to the folks that work with you to continue their growth.
Yep.
Because Lord knows everything changes so quickly. Even things that we used 2 years ago are somewhat obsolete now. And so you've got to continue to invest in your own growth.
You do.
And I love that you're investing in the people that work with you's growth too. That's perfect.
Yep. Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, full disclosure, everybody, Barb is also our payroll person, our accountant, our HR guru at Trainertainment, and a wonderful and amazing person that I absolutely adore. Full disclosure and transparency there. But I'm so glad that we got to have this conversation, because I think it's great to know that there are options for people, and you need to start exploring those right now before January 1.
Correct. Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, Barb, thank you so much for being here. As always, it's just a joy. Thank you.
Oh, I love working with you guys. Thank you.
Whew. Listen, that's a lot of information and a lot of important things that we need to be aware of as small business owners for our employees. I'm going to put that screen up one more time so you can take a look at that. It's $58,656 a year is the minimum salary requirement for someone to be exempt, meaning they don't get overtime. And that starts January 1st of 2025. So thank you so much to Barbara Flynn for explaining all of that in such great detail and giving us some options that can work for our small business to allow us to stay in compliance with these new federal regulations, but also make sure that we're taking care of our employees and our business as well. So thank you so much for joining us today. I'd also like to take a moment to thank our 2024 sponsors for everything that they do to help us bring you Think Tank Thursday each and every week. If you have an idea for Think Tank or just want to be a guest, go ahead and reach out to me and email me at denise@trainertainment.net. And thanks for joining in today's episode of Trainertainment Think Tank Thursday. Remember, the journey to success is all about growth. And here at Trainertainment, we're committed to helping you and your company grow. To learn more, visit trainertainment.net and see how we can help support your growth journey. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep striving for excellence.